Ding dong YouTube, welcome back to the channel. I'm the Jobless Coder, and boy do I have a story for you today. This is almost too insane to actually believe. It happened about 20 minutes ago, and so I just had to pull out a recording device here and hit record to tell you what happened, because I just got certified as an AI developer, and I know nothing about AI. Alright, that's not technically 100% the truth. I do understand AI and how it works from a conceptual level, but not from a practical level of having actually built models and trained AI data and made example software. I've done none of that. So I personally would not even consider myself to be an AI developer, but now I'm certified with Microsoft Azure. And if you want to know how it is that I got certified as a Microsoft Azure developer for AI, having not even taken the proper courses, then watch this video to find out. But before I get into the story, make sure to like this video and share it to your friends if you find it entertaining. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content that I'm doing. Alright, let's begin. Where did all of this start? So I guess first of all, I'll explain for the viewers who are not technically inclined. They don't exist in the sphere of the development on the software side of things. They don't know what Azure is. What is Azure? Microsoft Azure is basically their cloud computing services. So cloud computing is a term that's thrown around quite often. It's an umbrella term that represents a wide variety of different things: Internet of Things, machine learning, AI algorithms. A lot of companies use cloud computing in the tech sphere. It's used by basically all the big companies and even small companies. So Amazon, they have their Amazon Web Services, and it's similar. Amazon Web Services is not just a database center for storing and hosting files, but it's also a bunch of cloud computing and artificial intelligence resources, and Microsoft Azure is Microsoft's equivalent of that. So what a lot of these big name companies such as Microsoft and Amazon will do is they will offer certifications in their specific architecture and their technology and how it works. And it's officially licensed certificate issued by these companies to people who take their training courses and then do the tests. And it's basically a way for tech recruiters to gauge your understanding of a particular level of technology. So if a company is looking to hire someone who has the fundamental knowledge of how to use these programs, having that on your resume is a huge bonus. When I was experiencing some pay issues at the beginning of November and I was freaking out going around trying to find another job, I reached out to one of my friends who works in the tech sphere, and he is someone who has witnessed the insanity of my life over the past couple years and the issues with pay and previous bosses and all that jazz. And so, first of all, he was like, how does this keep happening to you? Second of all, he was like, all right, we need to help you, and I have an idea and a path that you can pursue. So he sent me some information for the Azure Microsoft training. Microsoft generally charges money. It's about $100 to take the test, and they offer a wide variety of different tests for their Azure program. So it starts with the fundamentals test, and then they've got AI, and they've got security clearance tests, and they've got data tests, and then when you pass all those, then they've got like second level and third level all the way down where it goes intermediate, and then you're an expert in it. So basically everyone starts with AZ900 is the course name, and it's the fundamentals of Azure. And so there's like a 5-hour long training session. They split it across 2 days, and you do one session, and then the next day you come in and it's like a live webinar where someone is going over a PowerPoint presentation, explaining all of the different insights and technical details, and they give you examples and they show you how to do it on their website, and then you have to practice and then study for the exam. So what this does is it allows you to actually take the exam for free. So if you were to just take the exam without having done the training, then it is paid for. You can just outright purchase that ability to take the test. However, during the Microsoft official training days for Azure, they offer this discount of 100% off the test. It costs $0 to take this test to get certified. So I did just that. I took the training for the Microsoft fundamentals, and then I also did some training for the fundamentals of data, which is another test that I plan to take in the future within the next couple of weeks here. And then I'm going to do some other training as well. But basically, somehow I did the training for Microsoft Fundamentals of Azure, which is AZ900. But when I went to sign up for the test, I actually signed up for the AZ900 Fundamentals AI test. And that was the key word that I didn't notice. And I didn't realize that until I was actually in the middle of the test, that this is not actually the test that I was anticipating taking. So here's how it just went down today. I already rescheduled the test. It was supposed to happen last Friday, but I wasn't feeling confident in my ability to do the fundamentals test, so I postponed it a week and decided to do it today. So over the last 3 days, basically, I've been doing a lot of research and a lot of studying and a lot of practicing for the fundamentals test, which, if you're familiar with the Azure ecosystem, consists of questions about availability zones and region sets, and security clearance, and their compliance software that they offer, and what is cloud computing, and describe cloud computing, the differences between platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service, and software as a service. And so all these questions are expected to be on the fundamentals test. So this is all of the knowledge that I have right in my brain right now that I was anticipating putting forward into the test today. So the actual testing process, they use a software called Pearson VUE, VUE, and it's a third-party software. I don't know if they necessarily have ties specifically with Microsoft, but Microsoft has contracted them to administer the tests, and it is a professional software suite that is used for test and exam taking. During the pandemic, when everyone was locked at home and unable to go out into the world, a lot of people that were taking university classes were taking their tests through software such as Pearson VUE, if they were not using that specific software. I'd have to ask my brother, he was doing some university classes at the time, what software they used for their test and what the compliance and regulation around that is. So because it is administered remotely and they don't have full control over the testing environment that you're in, when you're in university, they have an actual testing environment that you have to go to a physical room that is monitored the entire time, and there's nothing else in there. So they can verify that obviously you're not cheating. But when you're at home, there's any number of ways that someone could potentially cheat. So they have to verify that your environment is set up correctly. As you can tell, I'm sitting here in a bed. I live with my parents at home. I don't even have space for a desk in here. I don't have a proper working station. So I was uncomfortable, I would say, with the initial part of the test, because when you log in to do the test, they have you take pictures of the environment that you're in, and it has to be a bi-directional or four-way directional picture. So you have to take a picture of the front of where you're sitting, to the left and to the right and to the back. So behind me, you can see the wall and the frame of the bed. In front of me is the end of the bed and a bunch of other garbage that's piled up against the wall. To the left on this side is a window where the light comes through, and there's some stuff sitting up on the shelf. And then on this side is an entire room just stacked with, well, that's what it looks like. So I was hoping that that wasn't going to be an issue, and it turns out that it wasn't. All of this junk over here, that's not mine. So that's mostly my parents' stuff that I have to deal with. But I'm thinking, oh, great, they're going to look in the ceiling, all this garbage in the room, and they'd be like, no, your environment is not set up or configured correctly, and then they would deny me the ability to even take the test. So on exam day, you have to log in a half hour before the test begins so that you can do all of this stuff and take the pictures. They also need you to take a picture of your face and to take a picture of your ID. Because like I said, this is an official certificate. And one of the reasons that I wanted to do this is because I don't really have any other kind of official certificate that says I know what I'm doing. Obviously, I did 3 years of university and then dropped out. I did a previous video where I printed out a fake degree and taped it on this wall right here. That's obviously obviously not official. And I get ragged on all the time, oh, you don't know what you're doing because you don't have a degree or a certificate or anything. I say, hey, now I got this official certificate issued to me by Microsoft that says I'm a certified AI developer. So once that's done, you get put into a queue. And you have to wait in the queue for the proctor to review the files that you've sent them through your phone. You take a picture and then it automatically sends it to their wherever they are. So it took about 20 minutes. I was like number 52 in line, and so I had to sit there for 20 minutes waiting for someone to come on. And the guy comes on. He's got a very heavy East Indian accent. He's Muslim, of course, and so I didn't understand a word he said to me. I had to ask him to repeat the question, and then I got, he wanted me to do a wide view scan of the room with the web camera on the laptop so that he could see it. So I picked up this laptop here and I turned it around and I went like this and scanned the room, and he says, okay, now I need to see the desk that it's sitting on. I said, well, I'm not at a desk, I'm sitting in my bed. He says, okay, well, I need to see the bed. So I picked this up and I rotate it up like this, and I'm trying to show him where I'm sitting. And I've got the blanket across my lap here that it sits on, and the laptop sits on top of a cooling pad, and then I have an external hard drive that sits underneath that. So I grabbed the laptop, and in one hand, I'm compressing the laptop and the cooling pad and the hard drive together so that they stay together as one unit. So I'm going like this, trying to show him. He says, no, I need to see the bed that you're on. You need to stand up. So I stand up, and of course, the cable is plugged in at the back of this laptop, and it runs down the side of the bed underneath the storage bin of clothing to where the wall outlet is over there for the electricity. So I'm trying to stand up, and the cord is, of course, stretched outwards, and I'm showing him the bed. He says, no, you need to stand all the way up. So then I stand all the way up, and I'm holding the laptop as best I can, and he can see the blanket that's on the bed. He says, you can't have the blanket on the bed. And he says, you need to push it to the end of the bed. You need to make sure it's out of arm's reach. So I said, okay. So I push the blanket, and I'm trying to do this with my feet as I'm holding my laptop. And of course, the mattress that I'm sitting on right now is not a solid surface, so standing on it requires a bit of balancing act. So the muscles obviously are working in my legs and my body to balance while I'm holding this and trying to move the blanket with the other one, and so that's quite physically exhausting. So I'm panting and out of breath. I could hardly respond to the thing that this guy is telling me to do because I'm standing on the bed here performing this balancing act. And so then finally he says, okay, the blanket is fine or whatever. He told me to sit down. So I sit down, and he says he's going to issue me the test. Well, actually, before he gave the okay, he told me to show him what was under the pillows. And I'm like, under the pillows? It's a mattress. It's just a mattress. So I moved the pillow so you could see it was a mattress. The entire session, by the way, is recorded. So they can see everything for the entire duration that you're doing. So assuming, let's say, presuming I had hid notes underneath the mattress, had I pulled them out, they would have seen that during the test anyways, and that would be a disqualifier. But obviously there's no notes on, I don't hide notes under my mattress. I moved the pillows and showed him that it was good. So he issues the test, and it takes about a minute and a half. I'm waiting, and it says loading, and then it says that there was an error. And it basically crashed. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And so then he comes back into the room, and he's trying to tell me that, oh, you need to like click the X and restart it and stuff. And I'm like, there's no X. Because the way that the Pearson VUE software works is that it takes over your entire desktop and it enlarges. There's not even the window with like the little bar at the top and then the minimize and the X. So he had to knock me out of that so that I could actually see the X. And then I had to click on that and then log back in using the same passcode. Now I figured, since the fact that he had already given the okay on the environment and had administered the test, that when I logged back in, it would just connect and immediately go into the test. But what it did is it put me back into that same queue, and I was again number 50. So I'm like, oh my god, are you kidding me? I'm gonna have to sit here another 20 minutes now waiting for this. So I wait, and eventually I get another person on, and this time it's a female and Muslim. She's got a easier to understand accent than he does. So she's telling me the same thing. Oh, you need to do the wide view scan of the room. And I'm trying to explain to her, I already did all of this and was given the okay for the test. But then it crashed, and she says, doesn't matter, you still have to do it. Because obviously, you know, in the 20-minute duration, the environment could have changed, I suppose. So I do the same thing. I show her the scan of that, and then she wants me to stand up and show her the bed. She says, now I need to see the entire bed. So I'm like trying to show her the bed. She says, no, you need to get off of the bed. And so I have to try to step down onto the ground with the laptop in my hand and move it around to show the bed. And she says, no, the blanket's no good. You need to remove the blanket. So then I get back on the bed and I move it to the end of the bed again. And then she says, no, you need to remove the blanket. It needs to be out of arm's reach. And then I'm like, I'm trying to explain to her and show her that, look, the blanket is right back there. I'm sitting right here and my feet don't even touch it. She says, no, the blanket can't be on the bed at all. You need to take the blanket off. So we spend like a minute here arguing over the bloody blanket. I don't know what these people's obsession is with the freaking blanket. So she's arguing, oh, you need to take the blanket off. So I try showing her over here. She says, no, I can still see the blanket. You need to put it on the floor. And I'm like, good grief. So I finally kick the blanket over onto the floor. And then she says, well, what's this? And I'm like, what do you mean, what's this? It's the cover on the mattress. She thought the white cover on the mattress here was the blanket. And I'm thinking, Christ, am I going to have to rip up this entire bloody place just to take this test? And show them, look, it's a mattress and some pillows. That's what I'm sitting on. So finally, when I pushed the blanket off onto the floor and then I sat back down, and I'm out of breath at this point because, again, the balancing act, standing up with my laptop in my hand. And then she's like, okay, you can take the test. So now it's like 2 o'clock and the test was supposed to start at 1:30. So I'm already like a half hour, 40 minutes into this, and I haven't even answered a single question. The test is scheduled for 65 minutes long, and there's 35 questions, and they do this little pre-exam before the test where they ask you some questions about your prior background and understanding of the topics, and they make it clear that nothing that you put on this survey is going to impact your score of the actual test, and then they let you know, okay, this is when the actual test now starts. And so the questions on the survey, they're all about AI, and I thought that was kind of strange why they were wanting to know about my prior experience with AI. So then the first question was a question about AI, and I didn't really clue into it at this point. But then I went to the second question, and it was also a question about AI, and I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting here, I'm expecting to answer questions about what is cloud computing, infrastructure as a service, what are the tools that Azure offers, what are the compliancy software, stuff about Azure China versus the US Azure with the government versus their regular one. I'm expecting questions about availability zones and regions, and all of the questions are all about AI. And I'm like, oh shit, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm in the wrong test. So of course now I'm particularly upset and rather pissed off. I just wasted 40 minutes of my time going through this ridiculous process with these proctors from Pearson VUE, and it's not even going to matter anyways because I'm taking the wrong test for a class that I didn't even take. And so what are the chances of passing? Well, it turns out that I do understand a little bit about AI, enough to have actually passed the test. The way the test is marked is that you need 70% to pass, and I got 75%. And the way that a lot of tests tend to operate is that you need to read the question twice to understand what it's asking, and you need to pay attention to certain keywords and try to identify those keywords. So for example, I just happen to know that regression testing is a particular thing in AI that is used when you want to look at data from the past to try to predict data from the future. So anytime there was a question about, or an example given where the intended goal was to predict something in the future, I knew the answer was regression testing. And there was, I think, at least 4 of those questions. So I got those ones right. There were some other questions that were fairly obvious. If it's asking for building a software that would be able to identify products in a grocery market based on a picture of the aisle, then it's like, oh, it's like object identification, right? So obviously the answer is not, face recognition or language translation. The answer has to do with object recognition or computer vision or one of those two. And so I basically just went through these 35 questions, doing my best to deduct the answers from just using some basic logic, which is quite funny actually, given that that's essentially how AI operates, is that it just uses fundamental logic statements, if then or else. And when I was in the Air Cadets, previously when I was in high school, I had a friend who did these tests with me for the pilot courses, and she just flew right through the test. It was done like boop, 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 done 20 minutes. And I asked her, like, are you sure it took you 20 minutes? Like, are you sure you don't want to go back and review your test and like make sure you... She says, nope, nope. I either know the answer or I don't. And I just filled it out and then walked right out. And it's like, okay, man. So I kind of took that same kind of philosophy. Well, I didn't take this course. I have no idea what I'm doing. I either know the answer or I don't. Let's just get through it as fast as I can. So I think I blew through the course in half an hour when you're allotted 65 minutes. And then at the end, it says your score is 750, you passed. And I'm like, no fucking way. So now that I've actually done that and gotten the certification, now I'll actually have to go back and take those courses and do the training and the practicing so that I'll actually know what I'm doing, given that I've already had the certification, and then use the discount code for that course to do the fundamentals test that I was expecting to do today. So there you have it. That has been the crazy story of my day. And right now I'm sitting on the bed and my blanket is still on the floor. There's nothing on the bed. I had to remove everything from the bed to make them happy. So let me know what you think, whether or not you thought it was an interesting story to tell. And make sure to subscribe to this channel for future content. I have some more videos planned coming soon. And until then, I'll see you in the next. Thank you. Bye.